Welcome to UN Insider. I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Join us as we delve into the world's most pressing issues and learn how the people inside work toward a better future for everyone around the world.
Coming up on UN Insider.
Around the globe and across the range of issues, peace is the missing piece.
Pushing for effective solutions. The UN Secretary General outlines his priorities for 2024.
More and more people are celebrating the Lunar New Year.
Welcoming the Year of the Dragon. For the first time, the UN marks the Lunar New Year celebration as an official holiday. An international collaboration that could lead to game-changing advances toward reducing carbon and increasing sustainability. Next.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres outlined his priorities for 2024 this week.
Our organization was founded on the pursuit of peace. Peace is our raison d'être. Yet, as I scan the landscape of today's world, the one thing missing most dramatically is peace. And by that I mean peace in all its dimensions. As conflicts rage and geopolitical divisions grow, peace in our world is threatened. As polarization deepens and human rights are trampled, peace within communities is undermined. As inequalities explode, peace with justice is shattered. And as we continue our addiction to fossil fuels, we make a mockery of any notion of peace with nature. Around the globe and across the range of issues, peace is the missing piece. People want peace and security. People want peace and dignity. And frankly, people want peace and quiet. Excellencies, we need to strengthen and renew global peace and security frameworks to deal with the complexities of today's multipolar world. And that is the rationale of our new agenda for peace. First and foremost, the United Nations Security Council must be able to take decisions and implement them. And it must become more representative. It is totally unacceptable that the African continent is still waiting for a permanent seat. And the Council's working methods must also be updated so that it can make progress even when members are sharply divided. The new agenda for peace addresses strategic risks through a recommitment to eliminating nuclear weapons and stepped-up efforts to prevent conflict. It proposes measures to mitigate the impact of geopolitical competition on people and prevent the fragmentation of global trade rules, supply chains, currencies, and the Internet. It presents a view of prevention that addresses violence in all its forms and at all levels. It recognizes the links between sustainable development, climate action, and peace. And it calls for the transformation of gendered power dynamics, the meaningful inclusion of women and young people in all peace processes, and respect for all human rights.
February 10th marks the start of the Year of Long, the Dragon. For the first time, the UN is officially observing Lunar New Year. The event has been added to the UN's floating holiday calendar. Jody Jacobs has the details.
At the United Nations Postal Administration, they're getting ready to celebrate the Year of the Long. Long is the Chinese word for dragon. Sergio Baradat is the department's lead graphics designer and creates a series of Lunar New Year stamps every year.
It's a very successful series and everybody loves it. Firstly, it's a dragon. Come on, dragons are very cool. It's pretty fabulous, but it is the only mythical animal in the entire Chinese zodiac. The dragon year comes once every 12 years. So 2024, here we are. So it's a mythical creature. We're in the year of the dragon. The dragon represents prosperity and justice and good luck. So it's all good.
Baradat tells us that this year's stamps sheet is a bit different. This time around, he says the UN commissioned an artist from China to help with the illustrations.
I was looking through various catalogs, and there is this artist, his name is Tiger Pan, and he is just phenomenal, his work. So we decided that it would be wonderful to work with him. Our stamps are very, very important, I think. They are little ambassadors that fit on the corner of an envelope and travel the world. They're also part of collections from father to son, mother to daughter. For years, people passed these collections down, so we want to cater to them, to our collectors, but also to the market and to all the tenets of the United Nations, our Charter for Human Rights.
Staff here at the United Nations headquarters and several offices around the world have often celebrated Lunar New Year by hosting various informal events. But this year, they have the option of spending the day with family.
Families all the best for the new year.
For more than a decade, Chinese nationals working at UN offices, as well as the permanent mission of China to the UN, have been actively advocating for the inclusion of the Lunar New Year into the UN calendar.
Taking into account that more and more people are celebrating the Lunar New Year, with the joint efforts of China and many other countries, last year the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted a resolution listing the Lunar New Year as a UN official holiday.
Now passed by the General Assembly and officially added to the UN's floating holiday calendar, the Chinese Lunar New Year becomes the 8th such day to be observed by UN staff worldwide, together with days like Yom Kippur and the Orthodox Good Friday. Jody Jacobs, CGTN, New York.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres marked the Lunar New Year with a special message.
Chun Jie Kwai Le. Happy Lunar New Year. I'm pleased to send my warmest greetings as we usher in the Year of the Dragon. The dragon symbolizes energy, wisdom, protection, and good luck. We need these qualities to rise to today's global challenges. This year, the celebration at the United Nations is special. For the first time, the Lunar New Year is part of the UN holiday calendar. I thank China and the Chinese people for your unwavering support to the United Nations, to multilateralism and global progress. Together, we can realize a sustainable, just and peaceful future. I wish you good health, happiness and prosperity in this new year. Xie xie.
UN General Assembly President Dennis Francis recently wrapped up a trip to China. He visited Shanghai and Beijing at the invitation of China's foreign minister.
We're here standing on what can only be regarded as a feat of human ingenuity and determination, and also pride, standing on the Great Wall of China, a legendary feature of human ingenuity. And we're here in recognition of China's great contribution to civilization. It's an old civilization, a proud civilization, a country rich in culture and in diversity, with many lessons to share with the world. China remains an important partner of the United Nations. And so we stand here in solidarity with the government and people of China. I send my very best wishes to the government and people of the great People's Republic of China, and express the solidarity of people all over the world.
Coming up, society is starting to trust in the youth. We have the bright ideas, we have innovative solutions. UN Insider.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there. To see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Whether it's about your education, the home you live in, or the items you buy, your money has a story to tell. Because every business story is a human story. Global Business.
Countries around the world are looking for new approaches as they strive to cut carbon. In France, transportation is the largest contributor to the country's greenhouse gas emissions. But new innovations and international partnerships could change that and bring France closer to carbon neutrality. Tony Waterman shows us how.
In the evolution of green technology, electric buses aren't exactly new. They've been plying the streets of many global cities for years. But the Tizen 4 is a first of its kind, an electric bus that could revolutionize mass transit. So what do you like most about the bus?
Everything.
Everything.
No noise, no smell fume.
The Tizen 4 has all the bells and whistles of a traditional bus. But it comes with a superpower, literally. It takes less than 5 minutes for the bus to fully recharge, using an innovative charging system on the ground. Stations like this are scattered along its route, allowing the Tizen to stay on the road much longer than other electric buses.
On essaie de pousser toutes celles et ceux qui se déplacent.
We're trying to encourage everyone who travels, which represents 43 million journeys a day in the Paris capital region, to use public transport. And we're trying to move our public transport towards decarbonisation, to fight against the use of personal cars and get people to use buses, trains and trams.
The transportation sector is by far the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in France, accounting for about 30% of its yearly total. The aim is to have a 100% clean bus fleet in the Greater Paris region by the end of the decade. Battery technology like this will certainly help to reduce CO2 emissions and fight global warming. But for France to reach its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050, it's also going to need the help of its global partners. And it's already turning to China. In November, China and France launched a Carbon Neutrality Center, an initiative that will fund joint research to advance green technologies, especially in agriculture and biodiversity.
We have to work with China. For instance, France and China are both counting on forest to absorb carbon dioxide. The forests in China are very young. They have been planted over the last 20 years. So the question is, how much can we continue to rely on forest plantation and carbon sequestration, and how much forest will help us to reach neutrality? So there is a lot of common topic of interest that we need to address by joint research.
Partnerships are also being formed in the private sector. French energy management giant Schneider Electric is working with over 200 suppliers in China to help them halve their CO2 emissions by next year.
A lot of our research and development teams for electric mobility, for example, for electric vehicle charging, are in China. So we have investments and teams in both countries working together and then working with our customers and suppliers in both countries.
China and France working towards carbon neutrality, a global problem requiring a global response. Tony Waterman, CGTN, Paris, France.
Younger generations are at the forefront of a number of global issues such as climate change. Young people also play an important role at the UN. People like Daniel Del Valle. He is the permanent observer of the International Youth Organization. 5 years ago, the UN Secretary General launched the Youth 2030 strategy to get more young people involved in this body's work. How has that initiative progressed over the years?
Well, you know, the 2018 initiative for youth of the United Nations, the youth strategy, has been a totally success in the United Nations. I believe without this, the youth would have never get a position where they could be real change makers. Countries have realized how important the youth is. And in most of them, and if you go mainly to the region of Latin America, if you go to most of the parts of Asia, including China, of course, you see that most of the population are under 35, which is the youth, you know, the term of youth under the United Nations standards. So it definitely has helped. I believe the youth is in its best moment right now in the international field, in politics as well. We have seen it clearly on recent elections all over the world that most of the ministers, presidents are young people. So we are happy. We're in a good moment.
What inspired you to even enter this area?
Well, in my own perspective, in my own life, I've been always a very curious person. And I had the opportunity to join the United Nations first as an intern. So for me, it was a great opportunity to get to know how the UN works, what's their daily activities, and how could the young people help on this. And, you know, I saw that there was a kind of a big opportunity for the youth. I saw I could support on my side with my knowledge and with my experience to bring what the youth of the world think about several issues, several things, to the decision-making tables. The Secretary General launched a report called Our Common Agenda. In this Our Common Agenda report, he included two amazing, groundbreaking ideas for the youth. He suggested the creation of the UN Youth Office, which is happening right now, is existing right now. And then he suggested as well the creation of the Special Envoy or the Envoy on Future Generations. So when I saw this, I really said, this is something serious. This is happening. The UN is believing in the young generation. So we're in the perfect moment. I think this is the moment of change.
Later this year, the UN will host a huge event, the Summit of the Future, providing key opportunities for the world to accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals, but also calling for governments to make youth participation the norm, also give opportunities to young people, opportunities they deserve. What do you make of the importance of the Summit of the Future? What do you hope will be accomplished there?
The Summit of the Future is an amazing opportunity for all of us. When we heard the beginning about this summit, we thought it is the summit we deserve because of the new changes that we're experiencing along the way. And we're already working on an agenda called the New Youth Agenda. We're mainly focused on mental health. We believe it's an important thing that should be definitely taken into account. Then we will have the climate action that's concerning for all of us. Then education, which is the basic of everything, of all society. We have digitalization, which for somebody could be seen as a solution, but for some other countries is a problem. So we definitely need to look at it very carefully. And the last one would be bridging the social gaps.
When you look at everything that is happening around the world right now, and those initiatives and those goals are great, but when you talk to your fellow members of your generation, your friends, when you're outside of the UN, what would you say are their biggest concerns right now?
You know, I have a lot of opportunities to speak with the youth. I always feel that there is a feeling that their voices are not being heard. And this is concerning because we're really making all our best, big efforts. And when somebody tells, you know, the UN doesn't do anything, it's unnecessary, I say, the UN does a lot of things and a lot of tangible things, but of course it takes its time. You know, there are 193 plus 2 observer states trying to agree on several topics. When I get to speak with some other youngsters that they say here in America, you know, they always express their concern about, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get in the position I love, in the work I like, in the job I deserve. And this is something that, you know, gets me into a lot of thinking about what's going on. and what's going to happen to the future generations, I believe there's going to be a change. I think we're progressively watching what's going on in the world. Some politicians, for instance, I can mention Ecuador. The Ecuador president is just 36 years old. That's amazing. Or the Prime Minister of France, he's 30 years old. Can you imagine? You have Chile, he's 37, right? President Boric from Chile, and this is something fantastic. I think the society is starting to trust in the youth. We have bright ideas, we have innovative solutions, because we are not coming here just to propose a problem or to put a problem into the screen. We are proposing solutions.
Daniel, we are entering the year of the dragon, which symbolizes strength, power, and good fortune. What are your hopes and wishes for your generation in the upcoming Lunar New Year?
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate to all the Chinese community, the Chinese people, for the Year of the Dragon. I hope all the best for this year, and in particular for the youth. I think this is going to be a good year. I think there are a lot of changes. We are experiencing them, and my best advice to all of them would be to go ahead, to go forward, to not be scared of getting some no's. But we definitely have to believe in our ideas, in our purposes, to do good for the people, for the world. And this is going to change everything.
Ambassador Daniel de Valle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Coming up.
There's still a lot more work that needs to be done to make sure that we can get to a point where we can have a healthy dolphin population.
Holding guns. Word protesters.
Were you worried about your life at that particular time?
Not at all.
Excellency, thank you very much for your time. What is your assessment of the state of the continent today?
Africa has the potential to power itself.
Excuse me.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
You're watching CGTN with the latest market-moving headlines from around the world.
Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
A species once thought to be extinct is making a comeback. Decades of research and a project in the South China Sea have all helped boost the Chinese white dolphin population. Edis Tianshan has more.
When Thomas Jefferson went to Hong Kong in 1995 for a research project about the Chinese white dolphins, there was no trace of the species, as they were long considered extinct and found nowhere else in the world.
And we now know that that's not true. They're a population of a fairly wide-ranging species that occurs all the way from Southeast Asian waters all the way through into central China, and has a much larger range than we originally envisioned.
From his base in Southern California, Jefferson frequently visits Hong Kong to collect data going back nearly 3 decades, showing a decline in their population, which correlates to economic development, marine traffic, and pollution in the area.
The Chinese white dolphins, they need to use acoustics, underwater acoustics, to hear their world. So they listen for mates, they listen for socialization, for feeding, for navigation, and so on. They do this all with acoustic signals. And when we have intense vessel traffic, and particularly the high-speed ferries, that's very disorienting and disturbing for the animals.
The slowdown of commerce and tourism during the coronavirus pandemic led to more sightings of the rare mammals and allowed the scientific community to learn about their patterns.
So once the fast ferries have stopped, it's become easier to see dolphins within the area where the fast ferries used to travel. And not only are we seeing them more easily, we're also seeing them engage in behaviors that we didn't observe frequently before. So behaviors like feeding and behaviors like socializing, interacting with one another.
The current research by Jefferson and his team is focused on using the best available scientific information to develop a long-term conservation management plan.
We want to try to find a balance between, the human activities that, of course, society wants us to do, like building a new airport and bridges and things like that, but also making sure that we leave room for the dolphins. And although there's been progress, as I said, there's still a lot more work that needs to be done to make sure that we can get to a point where we can have a healthy dolphin population in the long term.
That would not only enhance the biodiversity in the area, but also present other economic opportunities like tourism. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Los Angeles.
I'm Elaine Reyes at UN headquarters in New York. Thanks for being a UN Insider.